You're listening to the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the place where you, as a dad, will gain more tools for your fathering toolbox, and where moms and daughters are also invited to listen into the conversation. Now, here is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, and I'm excited that you're joining me here again today, especially if you're a dad who wants to add more tools to your fathering toolbox. You know that my passion is to help you as dads become heroes, and it's with that foundation that I love that you're here with me today. Well, you know the grid that guides our conversation every week, which is simply on your mark, get set, go. So dad, picture yourself standing side by side with other dads getting ready to run your fathering race this week. I'm on the sidelines as your coach saying on your mark, get set, go. On your mark is the topic or the theme. Get set, filling that in with stories and stats. And go is always your practical action step so that you can put your love for your daughters and your sons into action this week. Well, today on the program, I have a guest coach joining me named Brian Bosworth. He's best known for his years as an NFL linebacker who was the largest rookie contract at the time for the Seattle Seahawks before a shoulder injury caused him to retire early. Brian refers to his persona in those days as, quote, the Boz, an arrogant young man with an explosive alter ego. And his life was transformed when he became a Christian, and he worked through challenging relational dynamics with his father, which we'll talk about today. He has gone on to become an actor and has starred in over 20 movies, including the Pure Flix hit Do You Believe, as well as Stone Cold, The Longest Yard, and ESPN's 30 for 30. Brian is a husband and a father to 3 kids, 1 son, and 2 daughters who are 28 and 31. So he's in our tribe as a hashtag bona fide girl dad. Welcome, Brian Bosworth.
No, thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. A Texan at heart.
Well, actually, Oklahoma. No, Oklahoma born and bred, and then held a hostage down in Texas, yeah.
Okay, so come on. Now that I'm in Arkansas, it means we're neighbors. I'm officially an Arkansan for Arkansan. I guess that's how you say it. I can never get it. I really call it Arkansas because that's kind of what I bring wherever I go. So I love that we're really neighbors now, aren't we? Yeah, at heart. Well, the title today, On Your Mark, is The Collision That Changed the Boz from FatherLESSness to FatherFULLness. I know that his story will touch the hearts of everyone listening. Well, get set today, Brian. I've had so much fun, honestly, preparing for this conversation. Whether you know it or not, listening to interviews where you have shared your story, and it has totally touched my heart. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not an NFL girl, so I'd never heard of you, and that's why I did my homework so that I could really come to this conversation today.
It helps to be prepared.
With a little bit of knowledge of you. And what I would say is, maybe stating the obvious, is the old you is nothing like the new you. How's that for a summary?
I think you're accurate there. I mean, I think we all have alter egos at different times of our lives, and we use those alter egos to either help give us self-confidence or pull us out of doubt or,
deal with trauma?
Yeah, all kinds of things.
Right?
I mean, life throws curveballs at us all the time, and if you're trying to do it all by yourself, the only way you can do it is to reach down and find something that you can manifest to help you get through it.
Exactly. So I'm guessing that most dads listening have heard of you, have known about the Boz. They probably watched you on television and saw some of your...
Probably had my haircut back in the day.
Yeah, there you go. Bigger neck than now, would you say, back in the day? So, for those dads listening, I would just love you to begin by maybe sharing a little bit more of the story they don't know about you, which is the backstory to the story. Tell us a little bit about maybe your childhood, what your life was like as a young man, your relationship with your dad, anything you want to share on that front.
Well, I was a hellion. I was one of those kids that was wild, constantly in trouble. In terms of I was just very rambunctious, and I remember the stories that my mother used to tell me when I was older. couldn't control me in the crib, constantly getting out of the crib, running out the door, running down the street.
Oh, so this is your DNA.
I guess, yeah. I don't know if there was a little Tasmanian devil in me.
How about we put a positive spin right here? I'm a therapist, mental health, 27 years.
Okay.
How about we do a little therapy right here, Brian? And
Sure.
let's reframe that and call that adventurous,
Is that okay?
Curious, and explorer.
Give nicer words
Yes.
to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know what it felt like when, when you're by yourself in the room alone and you can feel the energy inside you and you don't know how to either calm it or get it to dissipate. It just comes out and explodes, especially when we're kids.
I love that you're saying that. If you don't know what to do with all of that inside, it's going to go either destructive, proactive, or reactive might even be another way to say it.
Yeah.
Okay, so continue. So you were like a rambunctious little kid as a
Yeah. Well, back in the days, when I was in, kindergarten, preschool, elementary school, you got in trouble, you went to the principal's office and you got licks. And so I got licks every single day, if it wasn't multiple times a day. It didn't seem to curb my enthusiasm for causing trouble. And then, of course, the teacher tried to calm you down by sending you home with, you're going to write 100 sentences, didn't really seem to work. My father was very strict, very stern, did not like a troublemaker as a kid, but he coached me from a very early age, from probably the time I was 5, through every sport that I played. Was very critical of all of my performances, which was one of the things that really stuck to me. But I did find that sports was my outlet, and it gave me at least a place to get rid of the energy.
Right.
And it wasn't until junior high, as I was leaving elementary school, going into junior high, and suddenly my coach would not be my father. My coach would be a teacher / coach at a school. And the head coach at that time knew enough about me from being in the school, being in the principal's office, being in all these other teachers, classes, that he set me aside and said, "You're not invited to be on any athletic program here at the school because of your behavior, because we can't have your disruptive behavior infiltrate, our sports." And that was basketball, football, track, all of it.
All of it, they said you couldn't.
I couldn't do any of it. So that was my first panic of realization that if I don't get this under control, I'm going to lose the one thing that I love the most. And that happened to be the first night that I prayed. And
Seventh grade.
And I got it was 6th grade going into 7th grade.
Yeah.
And I got that information from my grandmother, who had relationships and understood what it was. She's very religious, and her husband, my grandfather, not so much. So when I spent time with him as a young child, and I was sent there simply because if I was left at home with my sisters, I would tear the house up and beat my sisters. So they figured it was easier to get rid of him for the summer than it would be probably for liability reasons alone, get him off into another environment.
And so you wouldn't go with your sisters to your grandparents?
No. I think that my sister, when I was in Meeker, Oklahoma, and my sisters were in Dallas, I think it was a vacation for my sisters to get away from me.
Yes.
And vice versa, and I needed that as well. But to see the relationship between my grandfather and my grandmother, I recognize there's a choice. You can either choose to have a relationship, or you can just kind of choose to be like my grandfather, and I respected him very much, very, very much a workaholic, gave me the work ethic to understand what it really means to have discipline and just do things over and over in a certain time in a certain way to get the job done. So I kind of gravitated toward him.
And this is your mom's dad?
That's my mother's father, yeah. So, and he had a difficult life. His leg got ran over when he was a young child, and I used to kid him. He had a Frankenstein boot. Like one boot was like 8 inches taller than the other one. So I know he struggled, and it just was, at least going back to the story, I got that information of, if you do have trouble in your life, you can pray, and of course, when you're young, you don't really know what that really means, but at least you can ask for help.
And did you know who you were praying to?
Yeah. I remember my grandmother used to, talk in the room by herself, and I would walk in. I said, "Who are you talking to?" She goes, "I'm having a conversation with Jesus." I'm going, "But Grandma, there's nobody in this room. I just thought you were crazy." But no, she taught me how to, use the rosary. We went to church every single Sunday. She tried to give me the tools that I could use later on. And unbeknownst to her, that it was a very valuable tool that I used when I was going into 7th grade, because I simply asked him to help control this devil energy that was inside me.
And you knew it was a devil energy.
Well, I just figured, because it was nothing but chaos. It was just,
destructive.
Yeah, disruptive in the classroom, bully, being not a good kid.
And did your grandma ever live to know that the seeds she planted early bore fruit? Which I think may encourage some listening, some mom or grandma or dad that says, I'm trying to invest in my child or my grandson or my son, and it doesn't seem like it's going in. You're just saying, be faithful.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking for an immediate, return on investment, that's not how it works. I think the fact that planting this in, knowing that they were farmers, I think it kind of hits home that it does take patience. You don't just plant the seed and tomorrow you walk out and pull the fruit. So for us, I think her small lessons over a period of time and the way in which she approached it, it wasn't, you're going to do it this way, and it's mandatory that in order for you to come see us, that you talk the way I talk, you think the way I think,
right.
You understand the way I want you to understand. So again, the choice was there. She just laid it out. Eat it if you eat it if you're hungry. If you're not hungry, then don't eat it. At some point in time, you may get hungry, and the food will be on the plate.
She didn't force you.
No.
She just lived and walked her talk.
She did her thing, and I just happened to be a witness to it. And I think it was important. Didn't know at the time, cloudy then, clear now, but it was valuable information, because when I asked in that prayer, help me calm this down, because I don't want to lose the thing that I love the most. Because one, I don't want to get beat, because my father would find out and he would go, "Why are you not playing?" And because of my behavior.
And then what would your dad do?
Oh, he'd beat me. It wouldn't be like a little spanking. It'd be a basketball, game, and I would be the basketball, and he would be bouncing me up and down the hallway.
And did that happen a lot throughout your life?
Yeah, my father was, he was physical with me because I was a boy. With my sisters and my mother, never saw that. But he was a very loud, very opinionated. Born in the 40s, raised in the 50s, so that generation, that's the way they were.
The highway.
Yeah. So I got it, didn't know at the time, but later on I realized that he had a toolbox that was full of a bunch of broken tools. It just didn't work. But that was because the toolbox that he was handed by his father was full of even more crippled tools. At least he was able to fix some of them and be present as a father. So
in some ways,
I appreciated that part of it. But
where would you describe your dad as missing it with you?
I think just love and a more compassionate and understanding and patiently help to guide, as opposed to you're going to do it this way, and if you don't do it this way, you're going to feel the consequence. And it just, I think any child that is forced to do something that they're not ready to do, they're going to rebel against that, and then they're going to have resentment. They may eventually do it because they're tired of the punishment, but there's going to be an underlying resentment that's going to build up over the time. Right. And I think that's what ended up happening with him. It's not that I didn't love him. It's just I'm not sure that I respected him the way a son should respect his father. I did want his love and I did want his attention, but I also wanted him to acknowledge that there was something special about me
Was he able to do that? Was he proud
Yeah,
of you?
later. Yeah, I think he lived vicariously through the success that I had.
Okay.
But again, I think, it's you don't change the stripes on a tiger. I mean, he is what he is.
Kind of hardwired in.
And I think that just because of the way he was raised and with the people that were around him, he took what they had available, and if they didn't have enough available, then he made up the rest on his own. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that generation, you can see the pattern of generations.
Yes.
The way people then behave and how they treat their kids and how they treat their friends and everybody. You look at today's generation, it's absolutely chaotic. They don't know how to interact. It's just all on a computer screen. There's a bunch of yelling and screaming. There's no adult in the room. There's common sense is blown out the window. You scratch your head and you're going, how did we get here? And if you'd imagine you take all the generations from the 70s to the 90s, take those out, and you just had the 50s and the kids from the 2000s, you're talking about a clash. Right now we're clashing.
Yeah.
And, can you imagine the two dichotomies between those two generations? So I think with patience and just understanding and looking reflectively back on what your parents are capable of doing, and then what do you expect of yourself? And I think that self-expectation comes from, I think God. I mean, I think he kind of gives you the instructions. Here's your life. Do what you want to do with it, but I'm going to give you the information and I'm going to give you the intelligence to decipher it as you go along. But there's going to be a moral compass inside you that you know the difference between this is right, this is wrong, this is a shady area. You can stay in the shady area, but you're going to have a little guilt if you stay a little bit to the left versus to the right.
So you're listening to that.
You got to listen.
Let's call it the still small voice, right, of God, of the Holy
Yes,
Spirit.
I agree.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation with Brian Bosworth. We'll be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Welcome back. I'm here today with former NFL linebacker and actor and #GirlDad and a Jesus follower, right?
Yep.
First and foremost, Brian Bosworth. Okay, Brian, I want to ask you now, you had a shoulder injury that forced you out of the NFL and propelled you to, should we say, look deeper? Because what I read is that, actually, I listened to some interviews of you, and I loved how you actually said that your anger on the field fueled you, but you never heard that your dad was proud of you. You craved having a dad tell you that you were precious, but you said, and then he died. So you dealt with some of your father wounds, your father voids, father injury. Share more about that process.
Well, the one thing that you can't anticipate in sports is your injuries, especially in football because it's a very violent sport. You can only play it one way, and that's, with a full campaign of enthusiasm and passion, and you just can't be afraid. But once the injury happened, and I had never really been injured to a point where it never healed, and it was very rare that I was ever injured, I had to deal with that, and I didn't understand what was happening to my body. And then once the call came that that's it, you're done, can't play anymore because of the severity of the injury, and I could see how it was affecting my play, and I realized, okay, the chapter of that book is now closed. I look back on it and I go, well, I failed. I failed to accomplish my goal, my dream. And not only did I fail myself, I failed all those that helped me get here. And the first thought was I failed on my father, because he spent so much time as a father and a coach to push me, because he knew that I was gifted. And I think he also wanted to play sports, and during those years he didn't have a father, didn't push him. He did as much as he could on his own. He got as far as he could with the talent that he had, but at some point in time his gas ran out. And he saw in me maybe a little mini him.
Got it.
And, through his tutelage and his perseverance of, you're going to this way. I remember many times in football, look, I came off the field in a playoff game as, I think I was probably 9 or 10. Hand got smashed between two helmets. I'm coming off. I'm crying like a kid.
Yeah.
And he's yelling at me. What are you doing? Where are you going? You can't come off the field. There's no crying in football. If you're not hurt, you're not playing hard. Get your butt back out there and score the touchdown, or make the tackle. But you're not coming off the field because you're injured.
Right.
So I had that mentality that you had to play with pain, and if you're not in pain, you're not playing the game in the right way. So those are the things that I took into sports and kept in sports, and that's why when I say anger fueled me, that was the only way that I could get past the injury or the pain of any injury that I might have.
Was your dad's voice in your head?
Well, just lock out the pain. Just block it out completely, and it'll go away when the game is over. Maybe a day or two or a week later, but whatever. And I just relied and trusted that my body would heal. Some point in time, that stopped happening, and I didn't. I wasn't smart. I know Seattle at the time, their people weren't smart. They weren't informed about it. Maybe they didn't want to know about it because of their details that were going on in their minds, or whatever happened. Whatever happened ended up, I lost my career, and once I lost my career, I went into darkness, and then the grudge started because I blamed God for taking away the one thing that I was passionate about. Vis-a-vis, go back to the 7th grade. Please don't take this away from me. It's the only thing that I know. It's all I know, and that's who I am. So once it was gone, I suddenly lost who I am, what am I supposed to do from here, and my purpose has now been completely destroyed.
And you talked about going into a dark place.
I went into a horribly dark place. Contemplated, whether it was worth living,
And you weren't a dad yet at that point, right?
No, I was coming to grips with just trying to figure out, what do I do from here? Because I hadn't prepared for anything else. It wasn't like,
there's a plan B.
Or, I love business, I'll go start this or whatever. No, most athletes that I know that are so passionate, that put the kind of time and energy and effort into their sport, that's their number one, asset in their priorities. And the smart ones, they'll put a backup plan together,
But like you said, that was your whole life.
Yeah, I graduated from college, and I graduated, ahead of time, and had a pretty good grade point average. But I wasn't interested in the degree. I was interested in my sport. I was interested in my identity, and that was part of the arrogance about myself back in those days. That that identity was what fueled me on a daily basis.
And it sounds too like you'd been used to being beat up by your dad if you didn't perform right. Now you did it to yourself. Yeah. Like that baton got handed. Yeah,
you repeat those patterns. Yeah. To go back to that toolbox thing, my father's father had probably an empty toolbox from what I understood from that. I never met my father's father, so he wasn't present in our life. My father had a bunch of tools that he thought were good, not so good for me.
Not so good.
I looked in my toolbox when this had occurred and realized that I probably had the exact same tools that he had, didn't really add anything to it. Didn't think I needed to add anything to it at that point in time because, everything seemed to be going good up to that point. But when you really need to go fix something, you go to your toolbox and you look in there, my hammer's broken, my screwdriver's broken, my pliers don't work, my saw's rusted, I can't do anything. So I got to figure out where to get some tools, and I wasn't interested in doing that.
Yeah, so how have you, let's fast forward. How have you become a dialed-in dad? Let's talk specifically to your daughters to put more tools in your toolbox to be the dad they need.
Well, when my first one was born, it gave me a sense of hope, because now all of a sudden I've got this little one, and it's like, all right, well, now I'm a dad. Now I have an identity. Now there is a purpose, albeit that it's not really the purpose that I want, but it's my responsibility. And I grew to like put all my energy into her, and then we had a second one, and I put all my energy into her. And then we had a third one, then I put all my energy into him. So I had 3 loving kids, but what I quickly realized was I wasn't happy. I was not happy at all, because all I was doing was putting things in my life, and they weren't really there to fix my life. They were there to add to my life, but those weren't instruments to fix my life. I had to fix my life on my own, and that means I needed to correct some things that were inherently wrong in my life in order to come to grips with, if I'm going to be an effective father for them, I have to be a happy person.
So how did you then go to those places of pain to forgive your dad, to invite God as a father into your life?
Well, I think I think there's lots of different layers in that. I think I first had to find out why I was unhappy, and the choices that I had made, and the reasons I had made those choices, and the relationships that you have in your life may not necessarily be the relationships that are supposed to be in your life. And some hard choices had to be made in order for me to be an effective father. I realized there's going to be some pain before there's some happy moments.
Some gain.
Yeah. And I had to look at the most important part of it, because what I was seeing was a repeated pattern that I was repeating from my father. And I went back, and I remember very key moments when my mother and father separated, and it happened to be at a very particular time in his life, and it happened at the exact same time in my life. And I'd call him and say, well, and I lived with my father when they separated.
Okay.
And they didn't really give us much of a choice. It was like, okay, mom and dad are splitting up. Who do you want to live with? Well, I'm not going to stay here with the girls and mom, so I'm going with you, Dad. And it was a very isolated, life. And, I got to see him date other women, and, I'm dealing with my own stuff. And this happened to be right at the same time I was already in junior high. So it was a lot of fluid things that were happening in my life. But I was seeing that my father was a different human being than I thought he was. And then when they got back together, I saw him even more differently, because I really saw the worst in him.
The worst.
Because he went back for the sole purpose of the family. He didn't go back to make himself happy. He was actually more unhappy when he went back. The yelling, the screaming.
And then did you get more?
I got more angry, and I absorbed everything that he was going through. And all of a sudden I realized, when all these things were happening in my life, I looked at myself in the mirror and I got, I'm my father. I'm my father's son. I have not improved myself at all. And
so then how did you take a step forward to begin to deal with your pain that was locked deep inside of you?
Well, I recognized that, the person I was married to was not the person I was supposed to be married to. And we understood that because we recognized it. We had conversations about it, but I didn't have the courage to go, you know what? You're right, I'm right. I'm not making you happy. You're not making me happy. We got 3 kids. The only reason we're staying together is because we got 3. The only reason we got married is because you got pregnant. And then, that's just, it just kind of went that chronological order. But when you look at your life going forward and you go, I can either be happy, but there's going to be some pain, or I can do nothing about it and I can see what the end result's going to end up being. And I don't want to. When I saw my father pass away and take his last breath, he was angry. He was an angry, old man that just hated the world, all of it. Me, he hated God, he hated all of it. Yeah. And I could see it because it was a slow death for him. It was 7 years, and I just saw this big, giant man shrink to a frail human being. But what didn't shrink was his anger. And I realized, my God, that's going to be me if I don't change some things. I got to break the chain. If I don't break the chain, then I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. And it haunted me.
Wow. Well, we only have a couple minutes left, so
Okay.
let me ask. This might be fast forwarding,
Okay.
but how has God as a father met you in your journey?
Well, he met me where I was. And I think that was the most important thing, because I was broken, but it was my choice to be broken. And I was angry, and my grudge against him was because I initiated the grudge. And he was always there. And I used to kid with him. I said, you can knock on the door as many times as you want, but I'm not going to open it. You can face friend me. You can follow me on Twitter. You can do any of that stuff. But I'm just not going to acknowledge you because of the pain and that you've caused in my life. And it took me a while to realize it's not the pain that he caused me. It's the pain I caused myself by not choosing to have a relationship. And I think that didn't happen until I got the gift of this. I got a script that was a reflection of exactly who I was. I read that script and I go, oh my God, I am this person.
Yeah.
I am the man that hates the world. I am my father's son, and I don't want to do that anymore, so I better change this thing.
So if I was to ask your daughters, what kind of a dad is Brian Bosworth today to you, what would they say?
I'd love to hear that answer. The one thing that you do get when you have kids is you get individual human beings, and they have their own choices and their own personalities. So I have a daughter that's 31, that's very independent. she's a little genius. And we have very deep conversations. And she's her own person. Then I have my middle daughter, who's very fragile. And if I could say that she's far left, she's far left. I mean,
Yeah, and you have to grow in different ways to connect with them, don't you?
Yeah, you got to deal with each one of them in a different way. But the one thing that I can say is I'm there to support them at all costs, at whatever it is that they need. It really just comes down to communication and making yourself available. They don't also all the time want to communicate with their parents, but when they do have dark times in their lives, and we all have them, you want to have somebody that you can trust and rely on, that is there for you and your happiness, and to promote that happiness. And that's just the kind of the tool that I put in the box is, hey, I'm always here for you. Call me for whatever. I don't care what the circumstances are. I may not like it. I'm not going to judge you, but we're going to figure out a way to get through them together.
And really, if you were to give dads one go step, you've woven some ideas throughout this conversation, Brian, but one way today to invest in their daughters, dad to daughter, to fill up their daughter's heart space, what would you say?
I'd say be present in their moment, not your moment. I think you got to find out where they are and what they need, and sacrifice whatever it is that is in your ego, to set that aside and be there, present in their moment.
Oh, I love it. Well, today on Your Mark has been the collision that changed the Boz from FatherLESSness to FatherFULLness. It's been a joy to have you here today, Brian Bosworth. Thank you. You've heard lots of ideas, dads. I trust that today you'll put that step into action, that go step, to be present with your kids and set your ego aside. That's awesome. Well, I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and encouraging you to make today a day where you intentionally and consistently invest in pursuing your daughter's hearts. Go Dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. If you're looking for more resources to support the father-daughter relationship, or if you want to connect personally with Dr. Michelle, you can find all the information you need at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. And remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. And while you're there, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.